Okay, so I get a lot of questions about the Akashic Records, and as an Akashic Record healer, I offer these sessions to my clients, and I wanted to explain a little bit more about what they are and what a session with me might look like. So the Akashic Records, I used to describe them as kind of a big library in the sky. It is an etheric place that holds all the records of everything that has ever happened or ever will happen, and all of the possibilities. The records exist on the quantum field, and when you access the records, it's a very high vibrational place, and just connecting to them is healing in itself. But typically your guides will be each person has their own set of guides or their spirit team, and that can consist of masters, teachers, loved ones, ascended masters, angels, etc. So light beings who have been assigned to you to help you through, help support you in this lifetime on your journey. And so they're with you all the time, whether you know it or not. But when we access the records, you get like a direct connection to them. And so they're usually really excited to provide information, guidance, and what's unique about the records is that it gives you a higher level perspective. So too often we're concerned about our lives, and it's like we're in the weeds, and we can't really see beyond the current weed that's got in front of us. And so when you access the records, your guides give you, kind of like pull you up from the weeds and can give you this really high level perspective, this bigger view of where you're at on your journey and what's the truth of the situation. Typically, it is best to ask open-ended questions in the records. They simply will not answer yes or no questions, or if you're wanting a specific outcome. So it's best to come into a session totally open to receiving whatever kind of guidance wants to come through for you. How sessions work with me in particular, each healer is unique. So everyone has their own special way of doing it, and their own unique gifts come out when they're doing a session. So for me, I have specific gifts, healing gifts, that I am often called upon in the records to utilize. So another reader might say, oh, you've got a heart wall, or you have an entity, or you have a blockage, and give you that information, and then you'll have to go like figure it out on your own. If they give me that information and I have the tools to remove it, then I go ahead and remove it for you in the records. What's also really cool about the records is that things happen quick. In the quantum field, it is quick, it's efficient, it's impactful. If I remove trapped emotions outside of that quantum field, then I have to do them individually. There's a whole process of removing them. But if I'm in the quantum field, in the Akashic Records, they just kind of happen naturally, easily, effortlessly. Healing happens. So I love doing them. It's the most efficient and effective healing tool that I have experienced. And typically what a session looks like with me is that I often will guide you through a meditation. Typically you'll fill out a form prior to the session. This is important because it sets the intention for the session. Going into any healing, you want to make sure that you've got intentions for it, because it gives your guides kind of a direction on where to go. Otherwise, they're going to just spit out whatever's most important from their perspective, which is probably the most important stuff. But if you're dealing with a particular hardship that you're really looking for support and guidance on, and you want to make sure you get it, you definitely want to set an intention, which is kind of like your order form. That tells them, okay, hey, we want information specifically around these areas. And so those intentions are great. That typically guidance comes through that covers all of the questions, or that it answers your questions, challenges that you had set in your intentions without me even having to ask anything in particular. But usually I like to open it up for your guides to I just serve as a channel or a medium, and whatever comes through, I just relay it to the sitter, or the client, the person that's receiving the healing. It's not my job to interpret them. I may tell what kind of my initial thoughts or feelings are, but they're your guides, so all of the signs, messages are going to be unique to you, so they'll mean something to you that they might not be to me. So I try to totally stay out of it and be a clear channel and just allow you to receive whatever randomness that wants to come through that feels random to me but actually is really meaningful for the sitter. And then I'll typically pause throughout the session, check in to see how it's resonating, and then ask if the sitter, the client, has any additional questions that they'd like to ask and get support on. And again, these need to be open-ended questions. So like how, why, those type of larger questions to give them more, again, it's a higher level perspective. So they're never going to be like, this is the right way or this is the wrong way. It's like, if you go down this path, this is what it may look like. If you go down this path, this is what it may look like. So it gives you that higher level perspective. It gives you options. You have free will, so you always have choice. And the future is dependent upon what you choose. So it's never set in stone, but they give you a perspective of what it can feel like. So yeah, at the beginning of my sessions, I always guide you through a meditation that's grounding and clearing of a lot of energy, just getting into the meditation before we even access the quantum field. And then once we're in there and I have your records open, all that wonderful goodness comes through. Then I'll close it up, close your records, bring you kind of back into reality. And at the end of the session, I always offer additional tools and resources that came up through the channeling, the healing, that would be additional for you to continue on with healing on your own. If there was anything that I couldn't do in the session, I'll give you resources to do it or continue that work. But oftentimes, my unique gifts tend to be physical, medical stuff comes up, ailments, emotional stuff, not uncommon for other typical things that come through in Akashic Records, past life, and foreign entities, cords, attachments, blockages in general, and then just a lot of guidance. So depending on what you're seeking, and it doesn't matter what you're seeking, you're definitely going to find answers, support in the Akashic Records. And at the end of it, people typically just feel really grounded and peaceful because you're accessing such a high vibration of light and in that connection. And afterwards, you've definitely shifted energy. We've definitely moved energy. And some people will often say they kind of feel like tired, almost like you've had a really good cry or emotional release. Like your body's just kind of spent. And that's a very common symptom of energy work. And so you've got to allow your body just to recalibrate and process all that came up. Sometimes things come up that you're not quite ready to hear. They don't make sense at the time, but days, weeks, months, maybe even years later, then they do. So anything that comes up that doesn't resonate at the time, I always tell people, take what resonates and leave the rest, and it'll make sense later. So that's a little bit more about the Akashic Records and what it looks like to work with me in doing an Akashic Record healing.